Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is wangari. Thank you for coming to my tiny minuscule corner of the internet. If you're a returning subscriber, what's up? How you doing? I hope you're having a good day. As promised, here is my video talking about my experience applying for an F-1 US visa and going through the interview process. As usual, such videos, I have to give a huge disclaimer that I don't work for the US Embassy, I don't work for the US Consulate, so I cannot tell you whether your visa will get accepted, whether it will get denied. I can't tell you why it got accepted, why it got denied, and so on and so forth. So everything I'm giving in this video is, number one, based off of my experience, number two, based off of my extensive research on the internet, because you know I like to come correct, okay? So as usual, take this with a grain of salt, do your own research, and as always, be prepared. Knowledge is power. I've broken down this video into several parts because I think I have a lot to say about it, but I just want to start with a quick, my background of how I've experienced the visa process. So when I got accepted last year, March, obviously you have to start applying for your visa once you get all the necessary documents from your school. And at the time, we still thought we were going to be on campus. So I scheduled my interview for July 2019, and then of course with the panoramic, with the pedestrian, I had to push it, so I pushed it to December 20. I'm lying, my interview was July 2020, and then I pushed it to December 2020, and then of course again we didn't go in the spring, so I pushed it to now April 2021, which is the interview I had a few days back, which is the one a lot of you also on Instagram. Also, side note, oh my god, you guys are so kind, thank you so much. My interview went perfectly, it went well. I'm sure the Harvard name had to do something with it, because I was even that's a whole other story if you all want a little story time, okay? And also something else that kind of surprised me is I was working with the assumption that most people who apply for a US visa get accepted, especially a student visa, which is what a lot of the people at the embassy when I was there were there for. Has that made sense? Yeah, because when you're applying for an F1 or an M1 or a J1 student visa, by the time you're getting to the interview, you've invested a lot of time filling in the forms, you've invested money paying the service fee, paying the visa fee, paying for a passport and stuff like that. So I was under the assumption that most people get accepted, which is not what I saw, sadly. So in the 2 hours I was there, I watched 15 plus people get rejected from their visas. I don't know why they got rejected. Please stop asking me that. I know it's my fault. I kind of set the precedent where when I talked about it, it made it seem like I knew why they got rejected. And I will talk about that later, what my thoughts specifically are. Again, disclaimer, I don't know anything, I'm speculating here, and you will be given a reason for why your visa got rejected or not. Let's move on to the next part of this video. So I'm reading from my laptop. English, I'm reading from my laptop, so if you see me looking down, that's where I'm looking. So what's a visa? Maybe you don't know what a visa is. Maybe you're you win a visa card, I don't know, okay? So I'm reading from the internet. I will cite all my sources in the description box. I will leave a bunch of links that you can go and check out. Come correct with the research. Okay, so a visa is an official document that allows the bearer to legally enter a foreign country. The visa is usually stamped or glued into the bearer's passport. There are several different types of visas, each of which affords the bearer different rights in the host country. So in the US specifically, visas are required of people ages 13 to 79, which according to my YouTube demographics, all my viewers fall within that range. And if you're outside that age range, check the US Embassy website, reach out to them, ask them for guidance. It's always the best thing to do. So what types of visas are there? In the US, there are two main types of visas. There is the immigrant visa for people who want to immigrate and actually become US citizens and live there and work there permanently. And there's what most of us get, which are non-immigrant visas. So you get to travel and live in the States for a period of time, and then you have to come back to your host country, to your country of residence once the visa expires. So for me, my visa is 4 years long, and once I graduate, I have a couple of months which I have to come back to Kenya to renew my visa for whether I like to or not. There's also tourist visas where you get for 6 months or something. I have no experience with immigrant visas. I'm not a US citizen. So if you're a student, you're probably getting an F1 or an M1 visa, which according to the US Gov whatever website is what students get. I've also seen like the J1 visa. I don't know the differences between an F1 and M1 and a J1 visa. I think the school you're going to attend will specify for you which visa you need. Most people going to do an undergraduate degree get an F1 visa. And so if your school tells you to get a different type of visa, make sure you do your research and know what specific documentations and stuff you need for that visa specifically. In this video, I will be going into the F1 non-immigrant visa for the US. And so if you're interested in that, let's continue. Also, please note, if you have a dependent, like a spouse or children, you will have to fill in the forms for them, especially if you're like moving with them, like if you're going with your kids to the US and you're doing an undergraduate degree, you'll have to get for them a visa. Again, please go on the website of the consulate or the embassy, do your research. It's really important to be prepared for these types of things. So I want to give a bit of background on the F1 visa, just some information that you need to know. So an F1 visa is issued to international students who are attending an academic program or English language program at an US college or university. F1 students must attain the minimum course load for full-time student status, which for most universities, I think four to 6 classes per semester. I don't know any college that takes more than 6 classes. So at Harvard, the maximum classes you can take is 6, which is crazy. But us, we usually take 4 classes per semester, and whatever your university deems as a full course load, that's what you have to take. Like, you can't take half a course load and go to the US. Next is you can remain in the US up to 60 days after you finish your academic program, unless you have been approved to stay and work under OPT. So OPT is a whole other thing. It's optical practical training. We can get into that in a different video, but this is just saying that after you graduate, you have 60 days to leave the country and either renew your visa or get a different type of visa, or just like stay in your home country. Be aware of that. Don't overstay your visa. It's dangerous. F1 students are expected to complete their studies by the expiration date on their I-20 form, certificate of eligibility for non-immigrant student status, which is provided by the US college. So once you get into a college or a university, they send you this form called an I-20. It has a hella long name, certificate of eligibility for non-immigrant student status. English is not my language. Anyway, you get an I-20 from your college or university. That I-20 has a start date and it has an end date. So you have to finish your 4, 3, 5, whatever academic program within that time listed in your I-20. And then you can only go to the US 30 days before the start date. So my start date is September 1st, 2021. And I can only go to the US 30 days before that. And then my end date is something 2024. And I can only stay 60 days after that. You get what I'm saying? Yes. Students, F1 applicants must have a foreign residence and must intend to return there upon the completion of your studies. So for example, I'm a resident of Kenya, and once I finish my 4 years in the US, I must return to Kenya, which is my foreign residence. While on your F1 visa, you may only study at the academic institution through which the visa was granted. I actually didn't know this. So like if I'm at Harvard right now and my F1 was issued with Harvard on my I-20, if I transfer to like Stanford, I have to go through the visa process again. I completely did not know that. And so be aware that if you plan to transfer to a different college or institution during your 4, 5, 6, whatever years in your US as a student, you might have to go through the visa process again. Always recommend read instructions on the website, reach out to the consulate if that ever happens to you. Next is applicants must demonstrate sufficient financial support. So that means you have to prove how your tuition is being paid. Either your institution is paying it, either you have like government sponsorship, either it's your personal finances or like a sponsor, or like you have a corporate sponsor backing you up. So from what I could see when I was there and what I read on the internet, if your institution is fully backing you, that's fine. Like for me, Harvard was paying 100%, and so they had no like questions about past finances for me. But if you're being funded by an outside source, like a company or a person or your family, proof of funding is important. You need to provide proof that you're able to finance your education. And so I would advise getting and preparing documents like bank statements and like letter of sponsorship or whatever in preparation for your visa, because you will be asked like who's paying for this and how are they going to sustain it and what do they do and stuff like that. Next is the F-1 allows for part-time on-campus employment, fewer than 20 hours per week. Beware, you're not going to get like a full-time job as you're a student. It violates your work visa. You have to work on campus and it has to be part-time and it has to be less than 20 hours a week. And then you must demonstrate that you have strong ties to your home country, whatever the F that means. Either that can be proved by a job offer, assets like a house, land, vehicles, bank accounts, family. For many people, it's just family. I have family in Kenya. I'm coming back to Kenya, whatnot and whatnot. Next is steps of application. This is the question I get the most. What should I do? What are the steps in applying? I'm going to go through them one by one. We're going to go through them relatively quickly. They're pretty much self-explanatory. Number one is you receive your I-20 from your school and you sign it. So I've said this before, your school will send you an I-20. I know last year I got a like physical hard copy of an I-20 that they mailed me from the US. This year I know they're accepting digital copies, so they just send you the I-20 through a secure like document sharing website or whatever. Then you print it out in color, of course, and then you sign it. There's a part where you have to sign. And if your dates change, like if your school was supposed to start on September 1st, then it's pushed to November 1st, you have to get a new I-20. People get new I-20s all the time. It's literally the document that will help you get in and out of the US. So if you lose, okay, don't lose your I-20, god damn it. But if you need an I-20, always just ask your school for a renewal. The second thing to do is to pay the service fee. So service stands for Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. So it's called the Service I-109 fee. Anyone who's applying for an F-1 visa, you have to pay the service fee. It's $350, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, this whole university thing is just breaking the bank slowly. It's valid for only 12 months, so don't pay your service fee too far in ahead. And if you're going to defer your acceptance, like you accepted class of 2025 but you defer to class of 2026, don't pay your service. It will expire and you'll have to pay it again. Service is non-refundable. If you get your visa rejected, you have to pay another service fee. They won't use the same one. And if you cancel your appointment outside the date that you're given to cancel, it will, again, you have to pay again because it's non-refundable. You have to pay that service because you need the receipt, number one, in your visa interview, and you need the receipt when you're filling in the DS-190, 160, the DS-160 form, which is the next step. And so you fill in, the third step is you fill in the DS-160 form online. I will put links to the US Embassy government website down below. You do have to open an account, it's free, to see the DS-160, but I'm sure you can find pictures of it online. So it's just a form that requires you to put in your personal information. You will need your I-20 because they give you a number. They give you like a secure number for your I-20 that you'll need to use to be identified. And then you'll need your service payment receipt because, again, they'll verify that you've paid the service fee, just so they can have like this like link of information, like, oh, here's her I-20, here's her passport number, here's her like service confirmation, whatever. You'll need all that personal information for the DS-160 form. Again, it's online. You'll need your passport. Hopefully by now you know you need a passport. If you don't have a passport, get it ASAP. You need a passport because you need your passport number. And if you're over 18, you'll probably need an identification number for your country. So like I have my Kenyan ID and my ID number. The fourth thing is to pay the visa issuance fee. It's called visa, I just call it the visa fee. So again, yes, there is another non-refundable fee. It's $160 if I'm not wrong. What's the word for transforming money? Calculate, transform, transact, whatever. Calculate it in your shillings, in your currency. The words are lost. Calculate it in your currency, whatever it is. I think it's $160. Again, it's non-refundable, so if you get rejected, you have to pay again. If you cancel outside the canceling slot they give you, you'll have to pay again. Usually you pay it out of your own pocket, like it's you and your visa card. Get it. It's you and your like money to pay for the visa fee. I don't know, some schools pay for students' visa fee. Like for me, I had the option for Harvard to pay for me the visa fee. Just beware that it'll probably take a bit longer, because like obviously it has to go through like financial systems to get to your bank account or whatever. But if you can't afford it, reach out to your university and ask them if they have like an option for helping students pay visa fees. Of course, this fee is due before the interview. This is not money you're carrying in your pocket to pay during the interview. You have to have paid it before the interview, because you'll need your receipt when you go for your interview. Also, I forgot to mention, once you finish filling out your DS-160 form, you will need a confirmation page. They'll send you like once you're done and you submit it, there'll be like a confirmation page that you will need to print out and carry with you to your interview. Yeah, just be aware of that. And then lastly, back to the visa fee, be aware that some countries that will require you to pay additional fees for whatever reason. Just go and read the US Embassy, US Consulate website to make sure you understand all the relevant expenses, especially in your country, because it differs country by country. So like specifically read for your country. The fifth thing is to schedule an appointment with the US Embassy or Consulate in your country or nearest to you. So US embassies, I think, are in most countries. There are some countries that don't have embassies. If your country doesn't have one, just go to the nearest one. You will probably need to reach out to schedule a time and whatever, but be aware that if there's no US embassy in your country, you'll have to go to the nearest country. If there is in your country and you don't live in that city, like if it's in Nairobi and you live in Eldoret, you have to make transportation to get to Nairobi for your interview. I advise you to get interview slots in the morning if possible, because it gets busy as the days go on. And so if you go in the morning, it's pretty quick. It's like an hour, 2-hour thing. You're out, you're done. And just be aware that you're not going to schedule an appointment today and get a slot for tomorrow. These slots are booked up months and months in advance, which is why I advise people to get it as soon as you can. Obviously, you must have done all the steps before. Like, it's a step-by-step process. You can't just like skip to the last one. You can't just like schedule an appointment and then fill in your DS-160. You have to go step by step. And once you get your I-20, pay your service, pay your visa fee, try and do it as quickly as possible and as soon as possible, so that you can get an interview date that like makes sense for you to have time to get your visa approved, get it delivered, schedule flights, pay for your flights in time to get on campus, because no one wants to get late for their semester. Next thing we're going to talk about is what documents do you need at your interview. So you've scheduled your interview, you're feeling good, you're feeling nice, you're about to go to the US. We stand that for you. What documents do you need? So you need a valid passport, and valid means that it's valid. How many times can I use that word? It's valid for a minimum of 6 months after you arrive in the US. So if it's now what month is it? It's May. You arrive in the US in September. Your passport has to be valid 6 months from September. So if your passport is about to expire, renew it in your country so that you can save yourself that hassle. Number 2, you will need the non-immigrant visa application form. That's the DS-160 confirmation page. Once you finish filling out the DS-160, it will give you like a confirmation page. Print it out. You will need it at your interview. The third thing is your application fee payment and your service receipt. So again, the visa fee and the service fee, once you pay them, you get a receipt. Keep them, print them out. You'll need them for your interview. Next, you need a passport photo that meets their qualifications. So if you go on the website, they have a bunch of qualifications for what the photo should be. I think it's like 5 by 5 centimeters, white background. It should be done within 6 months. I know mine was done in July 2019. So the lady was looking like, this photo is old. Get me a new photo. And I was like, I promise I promise. It's me. It's still me. I didn't have time to get a new photo. There's a panoramic. Please just accept it. And she did. It's fine. But get a picture taken that's recent within 6 months of you going for your interview. And then you'll need your certificate of eligibility for non-immigrant student status. That's just a fancy way of saying you'll need your form I-20. We've spoken about the I-20 before. You'll get it from your college, either hard copy or digitally. Then you print it out, sign it, carry it to the embassy. And lastly, you might need additional documents to provide proof of funding, if you're on financial aid, that's fine. I carried my financial aid letter just in case, that like breaks down Harvard is going to pay everything for me, signed by the financial aid office. If you can get that, that's great. I had mine. They didn't ask for it though, but just carry it in case. You might need like bank statements for the person who's paying for you, or for the corporation, or proof from the government that's paying for you. You just need documents that provide proof of funding. Next thing, which is one of my top asked questions: what questions will they ask you at your visa interview? Of course, the thing is, yeah, I thought people are asked questions in the office. I thought like you're secluded from people. It's literally, you see how KCB bank looks. You see how banks look, how they're like tellers. You literally stand at the teller and they ask you questions with everyone hearing. So I got to hear people's questions. People got to hear mine. And of course, there are lots and lots of resources on the internet. I will link them down below that give you a good idea of the questions that will be asked. Don't rehearse questions and become perfect, because that's not what you need to do. Just at least know the answer, okay? And so let me read out a bunch. What is the purpose of your trip? What are you majoring in? What classes, what type of classes will you be taking? Why that major? Are you on financial aid? Who is going to pay your tuition and expenses? Where is your college? What type of college is it? If you don't have on-campus housing, where are you going to live? Where are you going to reside? Have you been to the US before? Where do you go to school now? What are you majoring in now? What are your post-graduation plans? Why are you seeking higher education in the US? Are you unable to continue this? Are you unable to get this education in your country? How many colleges did you apply to? How many did you get into? How many did you get rejected from? Why did those, have you been to the US before? I think I've said that. Do you know any professors in your university? What are their names? What city is your school located in? Where is your campus located? Stuff like that, you know, stuff that like, as a person who is going to Harvard, I can answer all these questions, and you should be able to answer them. And okay, so short story time. So this was an experience I had at the embassy, where the person being asked the question, of course, I'm not saying this is the reason they got rejected, but it was kind of a moment for me that was like, huh? So this person was asked, okay, which university are you going to? They said University of California. They were asked, cool, okay, which one? And the person is like, the University of California. And the interviewer is like, okay, which one? And the person is like, the one in California. And in my head, I'm like, okay, number one, California is a whole freaking state. There are multiple cities in California. Number two, there are multiple UCs. I believe that if you're a person who has like gone through the application process, you know there are multiple UCs. There's UC Berkeley, there's UC San Diego, there's UC Santa Barbara, there's UC LA, there's UC Santa Monica or something like that. There are like 8 UCs. And if you are going to a UC, you probably know which UC you're going to. And so, which makes me think that it was a lie, you know? And I was like, huh? And the person was like, adamant, no, UC California, the one in California. And in my head, I'm like, something is not connecting here. And the funniest thing is like the interviewer just like tilted their head and looked at the person for a few minutes. And it was just like, and in my head, I was like, oh shit, bro. Like, if you're going to lie to a whole ass US embassy, then come correct with what you're saying. Like, you get what I mean? Like, I'm not advocating for anyone to lie to the US embassy, because you're literally committing a crime, literally. But like, bro, like, I mean, and some people will be like, oh, maybe like the question like, do you know any professors in that university? Maybe you'll be like, no, you don't know. But like, I mean, you can find out. You can look at the course catalog. You probably have access to your college email, so you can look at courses. Like, just look. It doesn't matter whether you know them or not. Just like, no. Anyway, I'll link a bunch of resources that have really, really good questions down below. Check the links. check the links. More like random information I think you should know. We're coming to the end of this very long video. Calm down. What happens if you can't get a date that's good enough? Like, what happens if school is opening in September? The only date you can get is in November. Please reach out to your school, reach out to your international office. They'll probably help you expedite the visa in some way, shape, or form. And if worst comes to worst, you can maybe like defer for a semester or something. Things to note, additional random things I think you should know. Go alone to the interview. You don't need your parents there for moral support. You don't need your children there. You don't need your spouse there. Unless you're getting a visa for your children and your spouse. Go alone. It's you and you alone. Also, don't carry that much technology. I know in Nairobi, you have to leave all technological devices. Anyway, you have to leave all devices at the gate. So like, just go with your phone. Don't carry like all your devices and stuff. I've mentioned you can only enter 30 days before your start date. So if you're starting on September 1st, you can only enter 30 days before that. Again, you can only get a visa 120 days before that. So for me, my start date is September 1st. My visa can only be issued 120 days before. So in that period of 120 days. So again, don't go for your interview too early, because you won't be able to get a visa until 120 days before your start date. Keep in mind that a US visa is not guaranteed. So never make travel plans until your visa has been approved. And so don't buy a ticket. Don't like get in and then buy a ticket. You have to get a visa, and don't buy a ticket until your visa is approved, because you'll just be wasting your own money. Save your coins, sis. If your visa is denied, they give you like a list that gives you the reasons why you got denied. You will be given a reason based on the section of the law which applies to your ineligibility. And then dress appropriately. You might have to dress like a secretary who works a 9 to 5. I have like a shirt here that I thought would be a good example for both guys and girls. I think it's like a unisex shirt. Wear like a nice shirt, some slacks, some khakis, some pants, some flats, some heels, a blazer. Don't wear like a tux or like a full suit, but business casual is a nice way to go. And then be on time, bro. Be on time. If you miss your slot by a really huge margin of time, it's cancelled. It's gone. You have to apply again. You have to pay again. Bro, I suggest being there 20 to 30 minutes earlier. In Nairobi, they won't let you in until 15 minutes towards time. I think because of like COVID and number of people in a closed space. But be there 20 to 30 minutes before your visa, your time for your interview. I've said I recommend taking this earliest slot in the day, like 8 a.m. You might have to wake up at 4 a.m. but it's worth it, because when you go in the morning, it's less congested. You get done through quicker. You have the rest of your day to do whatever you want. And then most importantly, my most important piece of advice in this whole video, be polite, be honest, be calm, and be prepared. Be prepared with your documents, be prepared with your outfit, be prepared with your mindset. Be calm. You know, don't be panicky, or don't be like shaking or something. Be honest. This goes without saying. Don't lie. Be a person of integrity. You really don't want to be committing crimes like this, and you don't want that visa denial on your record. And be polite. It harms no one to be courteous. It doesn't cost to be courteous. Be nice to these people. They might seem scary, but they're just doing their job. So be polite, and it goes a long way in making an impression. That is the end of what I presume to be a very, very long video. Again, I will say I will put a bunch of links in the description box. Please be sure to check them out. I hope this video was helpful. If you still have any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram. My social media will be somewhere on the screen. As always, feel free to subscribe, like this video if you got some helpful information. Leave a comment down below. I love interacting with you guys in the comments. Subscribe. You know, if you're new here, we have been growing a good amount. We're at, I think, 1,800 subscribers right now, which is crazy. Love that for us. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Okay, thanks. Bye.
I think about you lately. All I seem to do